Hi everyone, this is Eric Bond, the founder of Beat the GMATs, and thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to be with us today. So we have a great session. It's called an Online MBA. Is it right for you? So you've probably noticed in your own work lives that more and more of what we do is around communicating with partners all over the world, and the way that we do that is with connecting with innovative learning platforms, innovative sharing platforms. And we're very lucky because Beth Flye, who is the Director of Admissions, is here with us, and she represents MBA at UNC. And MBA at UNC has one of the most innovative programs around online learning and for the MBA degree that I've seen. I've actually had a chance to demo much of the program on the side. And Beth will be here to talk about what an online MBA really is, who are the right people to pursue these opportunities and getting an online MBA, and also talking hopefully about the MBA at UNC program. Before I hand it off to Beth, I just wanted to say a couple words about her background. So Beth is someone who has tremendous experience in admissions. Currently she's the Director of Admissions for MBA at UNC, but she served in admissions capacity at Kellogg, before that at Darden. And it seems like her career has really been focused around helping people to select and get into the right programs, the most competitive programs in the world, in fact. So Beth, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to be with us, and we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Okay, great, Eric. So shall I go ahead and launch?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, thanks again to Eric and his team for having me on tonight. And again, I'm Beth Flye, and I'm the Director of Admissions for the MBA at UNC program at the University of North Carolina, Keenan Flagler Business School. So greetings from Blue Heaven, as we call it. Greetings from my office in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And I just want to, first of all, thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join me tonight. And really, just to give a sense of the information that I want to share with you is as follows. Okay, let's see if I can get this down. Okay, well, okay, bear with me, gang. Let's see here. Okay, let me see if this will go back. There we go. Okay, so the emphasis tonight will be to share information with you about an online MBA program. But before I do that, the first thing that I want to do is start with what I like to think of as a reverse pyramid approach, and that is highlight just the primary categories of MBA programs that are out there now. Then I'm going to share some thoughts with you around looking at an MBA program, an online MBA program, who it's best suited for, what to think about it in terms of your considerations, as well as what I think is going to be interesting. I'm also going to address some myths around online MBA programs. Then, as an example of an online MBA program, I'm going to highlight MBA at UNC, for which I joined in May of last year. And I've been, just as a sidebar note, I have some history with Keenan Flagler, and so I will say in a very proud, somewhat biased manner that I am just delighted to be back at Keenan Flagler. And so know that, obviously, like I said, I'm going to have some positive bias in terms of talking about MBA at UNC, but I'm hoping that it's also going to be some enlightening information for you. And then at that point, what I want to do is just open it up to the floor. And Eric is going to play moderator, so I know that a number of you will have questions. And as we go along, or as I go along, you may have a question that comes up. Just make a note of that, and then when we get to Q&A, let the questions fire. And the other thing that I'm going to do at the end is post my contact information, so that if you've got questions after this evening, or if there's a question and I'm not able to give you the answer immediately, I am happy for you to follow up and I can exchange one-on-one with you. Okay, so on that note, we'll go ahead and jump in about types of MBA programs. So many of you are probably, I have an assumption that many of you have, number one, decided, hey, I want to get an MBA, or number two, you have decided, okay, I'm looking at an online MBA, or I'm exploring more. Some of you may be in the embryonic stages of just figuring out business school altogether. And again, that is okay. That is a good thing. And so the information that I'm going to share is based on just historical experience that I've learned over the years, as well as where I'm at with MBA at UNC. And again, my goal for this evening is that you walk away with information that's very value added for you and where you are in your quest to learn more about business school. So to kick things off, let me just briefly highlight the types of MBA programs. First of all, there's the full-time MBA, and that being said, what I mean by that is a residential / brick-and-mortar program. Usually, or the most common full-time programs have been 2 years in duration. However, you may find that there are some full-time programs that are more accelerated in nature. They may be 12 months, 15 months, 18 months. What I would tell you about an MBA, a full-time MBA, is this. If you're looking at a 2-year model, and that's going to be the one that I'll use for now. If you're looking at a 2-year model, usually year one with many programs is going to have a very strong foundation, many of which will be around general management types of courses. So it's going to be, again, think about it as that's a foundation year. The second year is usually devoted to elective coursework, meaning that you, through your choice of electives, could tailor your education based on what your goals are, what your career focus is. A full-time MBA program is great for not only career enhancement, but it's really the best program if you're thinking about making some sort of career change, and usually the more extreme in nature of that change, the better suited you would be for a full-time program. The reason for that is, number one, more extensive. You're going to have a much more immersive experience, obviously. So, you know, you're going to leave your work, you're going to be a student for a couple of years, and again, you are going to have a very, very immersive experience in terms of your courses. The second point is what I would like to loosely describe as a great experiential learning component with a full-time program. Again, if it's a 2-year program, you're going to have an opportunity for a summer internship, and that is a really, really critical part of the full-time experience. It gives you an opportunity not just to, as I like to think of it, like trying on a jacket, not just to try a new functional role or to do something in a different industry, but, excuse me, internship opportunities, especially this day and time, can catapult you to a full-time opportunity following business school. So that's something to think about as far as a full-time program. A part-time program. Okay, let me give you my definition around a part-time program. What I am thinking of, when I think part-time, I'm thinking an evening program during the week. And an example would be a program in which, again, you don't have to give up your professional job, your work life, but you're able to go to school. You're in class probably on average 2 evenings a week. You may be taking 1 course, but usually you're doing 2 courses. And again, this is more of an in-face, on-campus experience. And a little bit different from a full-time program. Usually you can complete a part-time program in 2 years or 3 years. Usually schools will, you know, depending on the school, may give you as far as 5 to 6 years out. So again, that's going to be an in-person experience. You may, again, depending on school, you may have opportunities to specialize with a part-time program. Other programs, it may be more general management in nature. An executive MBA is designed typically for people who are somewhat senior in their career. I would say upper management or senior in their career. And so these are people, at least based on what I've seen in my experience, these are people who are being groomed in their companies or organizations to take on a significant leadership or management opportunity. And with executive MBA programs, the most typical format would be being in class, again, in person, usually during the weekends. Again, the schedule is going to depend on that particular school, but on average, I would say you are in class during the weekends, probably at least 2 weekends out of a month. And like I said, I'm using an example of schedule-wise that's quite typical. but know that there are varying degrees schedule-wise with an executive MBA. Then lastly, getting into an online MBA, this is a program really designed for or online programs are really targeting working professionals who, again, want to continue working, but for various reasons really are seeking full flexibility and accessibility in terms of graduate business education. So very high-level thoughts on each of these four types of programs. There's also one that I would mention that I didn't list here, and that would be somewhat of a hybrid program. Hybrid, what I mean by that would be a combination of, and the percentages may vary, but a combination of both online learning as well as in-person class time. So again, just a thought on that front. And I say all of this just letting you know that there are a number of different ways to get a great graduate business education. And a lot of these, the ultimate message I would give here is that it depends on what your goals are, what your life circumstances are, and what matters to you. And that's a very simple statement, but it's also a very important statement because ultimately it comes back to you what you're seeking from an MBA experience and what's the best way, for you to ultimately earn that education. Okay, so now taking a dive into the virtual space of an online MBA program, as I just said, really, when you think about who should pursue an online MBA, there are 2 points I want to make here. And one would be, again, it's for working professionals who want a quality graduate business education for career enhancement. And then the second thing related to that is these are people that really need and want maximum flexibility and accessibility due to certain professional or just other life circumstances in general. And going into, to give you some examples around who should pursue an online MBA, I just want to highlight some of the bullet points here in which a person with one or more of these characteristics may be a really good match as far as considering an online program. So one would be someone who's not interested in leaving their job to pursue a full-time MBA program, and that could be for a myriad of reasons. I mean, someone may be very satisfied in their current career, and they're not interested in leaving, and that could be for financial purposes, that could be for career growth, career progression. Again, but they know they want to continue to work, or perhaps that person is not interested in making a radical career change, but they know that they need a good foundation in business education in order to progress. A second point, and I have seen this recently with some of the candidates I've been reviewing, someone who has a particular profession in which he or she is having to move around quite a bit. And for that reason, it becomes a challenge to go to an in-person brick-and-mortar program. Third, no proximity or very little proximity or difficult proximity to an MBA program, period. What I mean by that is perhaps someone is in a particular state or in a particular country where, again, for whatever reason, there's not an MBA program for which they can go to, at least not one that's suiting their needs. So again, an online program is going to give you accessibility. Fourth point, family responsibilities. It is really amazing to me. I tell you, I smile about this because I have so much respect for people who have families and they're juggling family life, work life, and then adding another layer of pursuing their MBA. It's really phenomenal. Just as a sidebar note, someone comes to mind right now, she is a mother of 3 working on Wall Street, and just really, really phenomenal. So again, family responsibilities, this is linking back up to the flexibility factor. Next to the last here, schedules that do not accommodate an evening or weekend program. Again, that could be for a myriad of reasons, even related to the above. But even so, let's say if somebody knows that if there's a scheduling issue as far as taking time out of their life to do a 2-year program, or it could be someone who, let's say they don't, they're really feeling constrained not just by in-person class time, but they're feeling constrained about a commute, as an example, to go to a part-time or a weekend executive program. And then lastly, someone may be really tech-savvy and would like to engage in a program that is provided by, a really cutting-edge platform that's tailored to help them study in ways that are best suited for his or her learning style. And again, you could make this argument, you could make that argument about the other types of MBA programs in terms of what is your learning style. But again, there's really, in particular, as you'll hear me talk about MBA UNC, it's an important thing to pay attention to what your learning style may be and what type of environment do you best thrive in. Okay, so what I have up here, this was interesting. I was talking with someone earlier about just the myths of an online programs. And really the root of sharing thoughts around myths, this is a fact. I mean, we are in an information age, obviously, but there is tremendous growth right now in the online education space. And to be honest with you, just my personal thoughts around that, I think online education is where the future is going to be. And again, I could talk for hours with each one of you about that. However, there are definitely some perceptions that people have around online education and specifically about online MBA programs. So what I wanted to share are some of those perceptions which I believe are myths around online MBA programs. The first one being all online MBA programs are created equal. Nothing could be further from the truth. To expand upon that, what I mean is, there are lots of bullet points that I could list here. One would be, what's the program format? Is it synchronous material exclusively? Synchronous meaning, think about that face-to-face or live. Or is it asynchronous, meaning is it the other extreme that, okay, I'm going to jump online, I'm going to look at some PowerPoints and some video, and that's it. So not all online MBA programs are the same. Duration of programs are going to vary. Courses and curriculum are going to vary. So the most important thing that I would say here is do your homework. And I would also say that my personal recommendation to each and every one of you about business school is aim high. If you're going to invest your time and your monetary resources into your education, go for a great program, however you define great. But you want to go with a program that is of great quality. Second, a lot of people, I think, believe that it's easier to gain admission to an online program. That is definitely not true whatsoever. As an example of a program being the one in which I represent, the standards here at Keenan Flagler are the same across the board in that the difference with our program versus the residential full-time program and executive MBA programs really come back to, again, a little bit, somewhat different or some differences on the curriculum side and scheduling side, but in terms of a sound quality general management education, we're delivering that across the board. And the quality starts with who we bring in. So, is it competitive to gain admission into Keenan Flagler with any of our programs? Absolutely. So make no assumptions that just because a program is offered online, that does not equate at all to a fact that it's going to be easier. So first and foremost on that. Third, an online degree is different from a full-time MBA degree. Specifically, what I wanted to clarify here is that a common question that I've been receiving over the course of time is, okay, is my degree going to be on my diploma, MBA at UNC, online degree? The answer to that is no. And while that may be semantics, I'm coming back to the point of an MBA from a Keenan Flagler is a great MBA, period. And it's going to be, the degree is going to be the same as what you would see with full-time or executive MBA programs. So it's coming back to, and you're going to hear me say the Q word, meaning quality, repetitively, but absolutely that's the most important thing, I think, when you're thinking about any type of education is quality, from experience to admission standards to alumni network, etc. And point being, the quality here, while I certainly am not going to speak for other programs by any means, but I can assure you that the quality here within Kenan-Flagler, that is job one for us. Fourth, the quality of education is lower. Not true whatsoever. And again, it really I will say this. It's going to depend upon how you specifically in your own mind define quality. When I think about quality, I think about, again, many, many dimensions. I'm thinking about what's the quality of the current students. Again, that's coming back to the admissions side of the shop. How rigorous or how difficult is it to gain admission? You want to think about, you want to be around the brightest minds that you could possibly be around when you're in school, because a large majority of that experience that you have is going to be with what you gain and what you share with your fellow classmates. So start, again, with what I like to think about as the input. Look at the faculty. What are their backgrounds? As far as online education, are those that teach in an online program? Do they also teach in the brick-and-mortar program or an executive MBA program? You know, those are things that I would look at. What's happening on the return of investment? So again, quality is going to vary depending on what is important to you, but do not at all assume that the quality of education is lower. And then lastly, employers do not value an online MBA. I'm happy to talk about this particular point. I can tell you that here at MBA at UNC, this program was launched after a significant amount of research and due diligence with corporate friends and partners at the school. And frankly, one of the things we wanted to know is, how are you going to perceive this in terms of, you know, would you send your best talent to an online program? How are you going to perceive people that you may be interested in hiring with an MBA that was offered via a virtual platform? And the biggest thing that we learned is there's definitely a market, and again, what is most important to us is that, you know, my employee or the people or the hiring pool is that they've got a great quality education. So we received overwhelming support from the corporate community in terms of the case that we made, or posing the question of, is there a market out there with working professionals that are looking for access to a great program? Okay, let's see here. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over and talk about MBA at UNC. And again, I want to share that with you in the spirit of, number one, I definitely want to share with you what we have to offer here at Kenan-Flagler as far as MBA at UNC, but also take a look. Go ahead with it. You're going to compare programs, and you should do that. And I want to give you an opportunity to think in your own head that, okay, here's a particular online program. What do I need to know? What are the key points to know about it? How does that stack up with what I'm interested in doing as far as getting an MBA? So what I'm going to do is give you a broad stroke overview about MBA at UNC. I will tell you that we do a number of webinar information sessions. And so what I'm going to do right now is really just touch on the surface, but I want to give a sense of flavor to you about our program and a bit about what it's about. Okay, so with MBA at UNC, I'll tackle the first couple of bullet points. In terms of how we deliver or what the teaching methodology is here, it's a couple of things. It's a combination of synchronous, or again, think about live online classes. So the courses are delivered in a synchronous format, but in addition to that, you're going to have asynchronous material that's going to be a supplement in each of those classes. So I like to think of the asynchronous material being something that's very supplemental and complementary to the synchronous format. webcam opportunities, office hours with faculty. We provide a very, very high level of service here. And again, what we want to do is, our goal, job one at all times, is to deliver a great education and also make sure that we continue to give a very, very high-touch service. That's one of the things that Keenan Flagler is known for, from all the way from the undergraduate business program right on up through the PhD program. And so that's something that we're very cognizant about here. So again, you would, regardless of where you are in the world or within the U.S., you're going to have web office hour opportunities with faculty members. Again, it's just going to be in a virtual format. Related to the virtual point, this fourth point, you've got 24/7 access to course materials, class assignments, discussion boards with faculty and with classmates, particularly with classmates. And again, that's getting back to so much of your educational experience, period, is going to be with your classmates. So again, think about the flexibility and the accessibility factor. You can be in an airport, you can be right here in Chapel Hill, you can be in Delhi, and you're going to have this 24/7 access. The next point is something that is quite a signature point about MBA at UNC, and that is, we, as part of the program here, we offer quarterly in-person immersion weekends, and I'm going to jump into those a little bit deeper. And these are, think about this as a capstone face-to-face type of curricular weekend. They're offered quarterly. So let's say you've got up to 2 years to complete your MBA via MBA at UNC, or you can take up to a maximum of 3 years. They're 4 years, so if you wanted to take up to 3 years, you really got an opportunity to do 12 immersions if you wanted to be aggressive. We require 2, and they are for credit. They are part of the required curriculum that you would need to complete your MBA. The beauty of the immersion programs here is that first of all, these are taking place at what I would describe as global business hubs within the U.S. and outside of the U.S. So we have these offered on the international front. And they are thematic in nature. So to give you an example, we launched our first immersion program here in Chapel Hill this past December. And our aim is to always have one here in Chapel Hill each year, because we want to give students an opportunity, to have a chance to be on the UNC campus within the UNC environment. Thematic, what I mean by that is the December immersion was focused on leadership. So courses, seminars, career development, coaching coaching sessions that we had with students. Everything was focused on leadership development. The next one, as an example, our second one is going to be in March. It's going to be in San Francisco. That one is going to be focused on entrepreneurship and innovation. So these are great, great opportunities in terms of focusing on a particular theme, as well as excellent opportunities to come together with your classmates, with faculty, and with alumni in those different locations. So this is also touching on not just a great learning aspect of the program, this is also touching on one of many networking opportunities that you have. Dedicated career management professionals, one of the things that's really great is we have dedicated career management professionals exclusively for our MBA at UNC students. And that's going to be a benefit that you'll have that will be lifelong. One of the first things that you would do when you would start the program is to have some interaction with our Director of Career Management here. And that's so that you get to know her, you get to do a baseline of where you are in your career and where you want to go. And our goal on the career management front is to really equip you with additional knowledge, additional strategies, so that you can navigate and best manage your career regardless of what point you are in life. And so we do that across all of the MBA programs here. But again, we've got professional resources exclusively dedicated to our MBA at UNC students. And then lastly, just what I mentioned about, you can complete your MBA within 2 years, or you can take up to a maximum of 3 years. So for instance, on average, you would take 2 classes per quarter. But let's say you're taking classes and during April, and you look ahead and you think, gosh, the winter quarter, I've got XYZ demands. I think I need to drop back to 1 class. Can you do that? Absolutely. So just to give you, again, some high-level points as far as why would you consider or want to consider MBA at UNC. And the first one, I'm going to sum this up, is to say, as I like to think about this, 3 R's: reputation, rigor, and relevance. This is a great, great program, and we feel like we are definitely trailblazing in the space of using very innovative technologies and marrying that with the great curricular training that you get through Keenan Flagler here and delivering that online. And so again, it's coming back to flexibility and accessibility. The second thing, a great virtual campus experience models after the on-campus experience. And so what we're trying to do, and what I think we're doing a great job of thus far, is giving you a strong community feel, giving you every opportunity to engage, not just with faculty, but to engage with one another. That's exactly what happens in the full-time program here. And so what we're doing is we're trying to not only equal that, but to surpass that. And one of the interesting things in terms of just to this point, the students here, one of the great things that I keep hearing time and time again is around networking. And a number of students had said, my initial thought was, I just don't know what the networking would be for an online program versus, you just have that face-to-face interaction when you go with a full-time program. And the interesting thing that I've been hearing is they believe their networking is actually stronger. Also, just being with the synchronous classes in session, a number of them have said, we have to be more prepared as far as being in classes here through MBA at UNC than sitting in a brick-and-mortar program. And what they mean by that is they actually feel that they have to be a lot more present. And it's a very interesting point, but if you think about that, that's true. And as one student who I know quite well has said, there is no opportunity to hide. And actually, I think that's a great thing in terms of business training. Again, I highlighted the global immersions, and then lastly, a very, very highly personalized approach. And again, that's relating up to the networking factor with all key constituents, fellow classmates, faculty, leaders of the school, and also with the alumni network. And to that point, I will tell you that in terms of networking, you've got over 30,000 alumni around the world of Keenan Flagler, so you automatically are going to be tapped into that network, and we'll help you do that as a new student. Okay, and then the other thing is you can just see this up on the slide, but there are a lot of one thing that we do a great job of here at Keenan Flagler is getting constant feedback. We always want to know, what do we need to be doing differently? What do we need to be doing better? And really, that was a big. You could say that was a huge reason in making the decision to build and launch MBA at UNC. The feedback that we have been receiving has been incredible. And not to say that we weren't expecting that, but to be quite honest with you, it has surpassed our wildest expectations as far as being as young as we are. And as many of you know or may not know, we launched MBA at UNC as of the first class during July of last year. So you can see some of the comments, and these are from surveys that we have had. Okay, in terms of thinking about applying to MBA at UNC, I'm just going to briefly brush through these 4 points that I've put up here. Number one, we want to see evidence of academic success and readiness, and that's going to be through an assessment of your GMAT or GRE scores coupled with your undergraduate and in some cases your graduate record. So again, we want, as I like to say, we want people that are not just going to survive academically, but people that are going to thrive academically. Second, quality full-time work experience. So the first thing I want you to know is we are a program where some professional full-time experience is a requirement. Some of you may be wondering, how much do I need? We like to say in terms of if you think about time, we like to say at least 2 years, but really what we're most interested in is the quality of your full-time work experience. Quality would mean such things as, what has your progression been? How have you had impact on your organization? What have you learned? So again, it's about the richness or quality of your experience. The second thing would be around your professional goals. Again, this is about career enhancement, but one of the things we really need to know is what is it that you're looking for in terms of your business education? What are you trying to achieve? And why do you need an MBA? And specifically, why are you interested in MBA at UNC? Third, King of Flagler is a school about leadership, and while we definitely believe that leadership can be taught, we want to see your exposure to leadership development in terms of excuse me, your track record, your potential, and also how you have worked in groups or teams. And then lastly, strong interpersonal and communication skills. We look for that in a number of ways, through your interview, through your essays, also feedback from your recommenders. So those are the 4 primary buckets of admissions criteria. In terms of application deadlines, as I had mentioned earlier, we bring in or have 4 what I like to call intakes per year. Intakes would be July, October, January, July, October, January, and also April. And what is listed up here are the next application periods as far as for the next cohort. So right now, just to let you know, our application deadline for the April start recently passed. So we're busy in the mode of assessing applicants for the April start. Then you can see on the right the application deadlines for the cohort starts for July, October, and January of 2013. Admission is, as far as, when will you get a decision, it is on a rolling basis. So you could actually, for instance, you could apply now for admission for the January 2013 cohort. So just an added point there. Okay, I have gone a little bit longer than I meant to go, and my apologies on that. But and I'm doing a time check, and Eric, check me on this. It looks like in terms of allotted time, we have about close to 20 minutes. So I am happy to address questions, and I'll let Eric moderate this, and I'm also lastly going to fill up my contact information. And I'll just say right now, anytime you have questions going forward, whether it's about MBA at UNC, King of Flagler at large, or if you would just like to have a conversation around what I've talked about, what are different types of MBA programs, and what's your opinion in terms of what my goals are and what programs to think about, I am happy to help you as much as I can.
Fantastic. Well, Beth, thank you so much for the session, and also for being so generous in how open you are for folks like us to reach out to you and ask for more questions. That's a rare openness that you don't see too much among admissions officers. So hopefully our community will take advantage of that as well. So
absolutely. I have an open phone, an open email, and an open door.
That's dangerous, Beth, but definitely respect that. So we had a number of questions coming in. Before I actually jump into some of the community's questions, I just want to remind folks that on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, there is a box, a text field where you can type in your questions. Now is definitely the time to do that. For the next 20 minutes or so, we'll be around to ask Beth these questions, and you can get them you can get your inquiries answered live. So let's jump into the first question, and let's see. This one is from Ravi, and Ravi is asking, what options are available to socialize, collaborate, and learn with other students joining with me online? So you talked a little bit about this platform. Can you actually elaborate a little bit more about how the students can socialize with one another?
Well, it's a really great thing, and Robbie, thanks for your question. And I'm not sure if you meant this about MBA at UNC specifically, but I'm going to come at that angle. So again, one of the things that happens here is it's a little bit similar to what's happening with the full-time experience. That being, teamwork is a way of life with MBA at UNC, and again, that's Keenan Flagler to the core. I mean, one of the core values is community, and that, again, I guess I have a lot of different meanings in my mind around community, but that's linking up heavily with teamwork, learning from one another, being challenged by one another. So I just wanted to say that at a high level. With, for instance, your classes here, you're going to have groups, and the nice thing is too, where the students are interacting together online. We have town halls with the dean and with the executive director. Students also have already linked up amazing relationships through the first immersion that we have had. They also know, as part of when they first joined the program, they receive biographical information and contact information about all their fellow classmates that are beginning that cohort with them. So we're trying to, at a baseline, provide as much opportunity as possible for students to interact. They're hungry for that, and they are actively seeking that. Any experience, any educational experience is going to be what you're going to get out of it, what you put into it. And I think the interesting thing that we're seeing is there is just constant networking here that's happening between the students. So, again, it's not I guess you could say it's not a passive environment. These students are taking great initiative in terms of networking with each other. And at the same time, one of the things that we want to make sure that we continue to do is what other opportunities can we do as a school to help foster and to further foster, rather, those relationships. And again, that's going on at a number of levels. It's happening with interactions with alumni. It's happening on the career management front. So we feel very good about how we've come out of the gate on that networking opportunity.
Very good. Well, another question that we have just coming in is from Edward, and Edward is asking that he says, my work hours are non-traditional. Can the online live classes be viewed after the fact?
That is possible. So a couple of things. Number one, in terms of class attendance, yep, the attendance is definitely, that's going to be a requirement, again, according to which particular faculty member that you have. That can vary, but will those courses be available? Yes, absolutely they will be. And the other thing, too, that I just want to highlight is in terms of when courses are offered, what we have done is, or what we continue to do, is to solicit information from students as far as, obviously, we can't, in terms of having the synchronous classes, we're not always going to bat 1,000 in meeting a person's first choice of, hey, my ideal time for this class would be at this hour on this date. But what we do is we try to gather as much information as we can from students and offer our classes based on what is, as much feedback related to that. So that was just a point that I wanted to stress. And again, that's just our way of being as accommodating as we can possibly be.
Certainly. And, I did have a follow-up question myself around the viewing of the classes or the participation. And, for some people who are maybe based overseas, perhaps in areas where internet connectivity is not as fast as in the United States or elsewhere, have you heard any issues from some of the students who are based abroad in terms of problems with broadband connections? Just a little more information about that, because I know we have so many people in the B2GMAT community who are based in areas where perhaps internet connection isn't that fast.
Right. Great question. And what I would say to that, there are a couple of students that are bubbling up that fit the description that you just described. One who is an active U.S. military member who is currently stationed in Djibouti. Another person is a new student who's going to be joining us, who is going to spend, on average, roughly 7 months within a 12-month period in Afghanistan. So I bring them up because there was a lot of conversation from them with this very question before they embarked in their classes, before they shipped out. And thus far, from my understanding, we are not experiencing difficulties on that front. And the great thing is, on the technology front, we have got amazing support. And so I'm going to sit here and tell you that I am not a technology guru. My objective when it comes to any form of technology is make it Beth friendly. And so I say that meaning we make it very accessible, very smooth as we can for our students on the tech side. So there is constant tech support. And again, if what we're trying to do right now, since we are still young, is, if we have those, if a student encounters such difficulties, we're going to try to find a way to remedy that. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things when we launched this program was we also wanted to be a very attractive program globally.
Right, right. One thing that I really love about what I've seen demoed with some of the live collaboration with UNC is it really does mimic very well some of the exact working platforms I've had to use at other companies. So, I've had to work with international teams as well. And, we're in different time zones, we're in different locations, but we're just connected by this online platform that's just the reality of doing business today.
Exactly.
And one of the realities, too, and modern business reality is, there are going to be times when people have to drop off. You have to learn how to get around it, be creative, do workarounds. But there's always very simple ways of doing that, maybe calling in and so forth. So,
right. And to that point, that brings to mind, we've had a handful of students who have needed to do that. If they have been in an international location and for whatever reason have encountered a problem, and you and I both know, Eric, is that inevitably going to happen, whether it's, technology with your company or if you're looking at an online MBA program, there will be a hiccup. I mean, let's be realistic. That's just gonna happen. I'd love to say it's not, but being realistic, that will happen. But a student, what I can say to you is, we're not going to let a student lose out in terms of the education experience at all on that front.
Right, right. Well, that's good to know. I saw a number of questions coming in with regard to the immersion weekends that you had mentioned.
Right.
Can you provide some more details about that, like maybe even some examples of recent immersion weekends?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the one in December, and I just wanted to mention too, everyone can't, quote, see him right now, but I've got a couple of colleagues on here, and so Allie and Harrison, if you want to type in where I can see you any key points around the immersion weekends, please feel free to join me. So anyway, just wanted to tack that on. The immersion weekends have a theme. And like I said, the one in December here in Chapel Hill was focused around leadership and leadership development. So, for instance, we brought in some career / executive coaches that worked with each of the students. And in advance of the weekend, each of the participants had to go through a 360 assessment. And so there were a number of sessions revolved around that in terms of feedback. And then we also had, like I said, career coaches that worked with each of the students in terms of, okay, here's this information, here are some key points to keep in mind going forward as far as developing in these areas. Here's what you do well, here's some areas for opportunity or for growth. So that was a couple of components. We also brought in some guest speakers that focused on leadership development. We brought in someone who also talked about just mindfulness. That's one of the things that is incredible, that is just really missing for all of us in today's world, is really being present, being mindful. And so we brought in someone who worked with the students on that front and how that impacts their particular leadership ability and leadership style. And then we had some mini courses with faculty members. Students also had the opportunity to engage with some senior alumni that we brought in, and they also had the opportunity to meet with some of our students from the full-time program who were key leaders with the full-time program here at Keenan Flagler. So again, a little bit more of a high-level sketch. For anyone out there who would like to talk more in depth about that, I am also happy to link you with a couple of colleagues who were involved with the curriculum design with the immersion programs.
I see a very interesting question coming in. This is with regard to the online MBA program, I tend to view it more personally as a closer relationship to a part-time program. But this is with regard to clubs. Are there clubs that people join while you're in an online MBA program at UNC?
Very good question. At the present time, we do not have any formal student clubs exclusively among the MBA UNC student community. And when I say formal, meaning clubs that the school is launching or arranging. So we don't have that. However, students are, through the technology platform that we use, students are forming their own clubs or subgroups. I will tell you that one of the objectives we have going forward is linking MBA UNC students, trying to figure out ways that they can link up with students from the full-time program that are involved with professional clubs. So it's a great question. And like I said, the networking, that's touching on the networking opportunities. Mm-hmm. So it's happening informally. It's just not presently happening in a formal manner.
Gotcha. Okay, well, let's take a couple more questions. And Beth, unfortunately, I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions before we're going to have to end today's session.
No problem. So,
this is always the toughest time because there's always too many great questions that we just don't have time to address them all. A question that I just saw come in is with regard to career change. So, do you think that doing an online MBA is a good path for a career change? And let me expand that with some of my own color commentary. You know, it's often thought that a full-time MBA is the preferred route for doing a major career change. That's at least with a sentiment within my community. But what are your thoughts in terms of online MBA? Is that a good route as well?
That's a great question. And let me just start off the bat saying my own personal thinking around the two words of career change. When I think about that, it's obviously a great continuum. I mean, for me, as an example, when I think about a radical career change, and I'm just, again, giving you a hypothetical example, if I think about someone who has been a marketing analyst and they want to go into investment banking, that's a pretty significant, what I would call significant or rather extreme career change. And in looking at our program right now, MBA at UNC, if somebody wanted to make that move, I would say MBA at UNC is not for you. Again, we're about career enhancement for people who are already, you know, they're seeking more career enhancement, upward progression, as opposed to making a significant switch. That being said, what if someone has been in, let's say they've been working in private equity and they would like to go into corporate finance with a particular company. Now, again, is that a career change? Literally, yes. But is that more within sort of under the same umbrella? If you think about the general world of finance, yes. Would MBA at UNC, in that case, be a good option for someone? Absolutely. And I'll just say too, Eric, on the career change front, to everyone out there, you know, sometimes I've talked with people very early saying, I'm trying to figure out which program, here's what I want to do, what is a good program? And I just want to say that, again, ultimately there may not be a right or wrong answer, but it's more about accumulating information to help you arrive at the best decision. And what I also can do is link you with my counterpart here in career management. She's a great resource. I'm happy to do that.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, I think this will unfortunately have to be the last question that we can take. And it's been very popular among our community. I see this 2 or 3 times already asked, which is, do you have any examples of a day in the life for an MBA at UNC student?
Oh, wow, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Let's see. day in the life, I think about, again, every student's life is going to be different. That's a no-brainer. But the person that comes to mind is a student in our first cohort.
Mm-hmm.
And he works for, I believe it's WebMD, and he is just phenomenal. Phenomenal meaning smart guy, bright guy, very accomplished in his career. But he's a father, he's a husband, and his travel demands are unbelievable. And anyway, he is logging in from all over when it comes to attending his classes. But he's fitting that in. Now, is every student like that? Does every student have an absolute, very, very demanding schedule such as him? No, not at all. There's another student who was who was on Wall Street for a number of years, and she most recently is taking some time out. She wants to step back into finance, but she could afford to step out, and she's actually writing a book right now. So again, very, very different type of student life. But again, it's giving her the flexibility. The bottom line here, it's giving them the flexibility to continue their life, but also to get a really good education. And by the way, the first student that I highlighted, I believe it's the link is still up there. One of the things, Eric, that we do is that we do webinars for prospective students. And one of them that's the most popular is that we do what is called the student experience webinars. And we have 2 actual students, and that's a great opportunity for folks to learn more about the day in the life. So 2 things. One, we're going to have one coming up in the next couple of weeks. 2, I believe there's a link still on the MBA UNC website from one of the webinars that we did. And actually, the one that I'm thinking about is the student who works for WebMD and talks exclusively, or extensively rather, about his life.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That would be really useful to see that. Yeah. Well, I said that was the last question, but there's actually one more that I have to ask because I'm a sucker for GMAT questions. And,
his business, okay.
Exactly. Well, Mohan Prabhu, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, is asking, what's the average GMAT score for UNC?
Yeah, I will. Let me address that as follows. So right now we're not publishing an average, and I'll tell you why. That's because we are young, and I'll just give you a data point on that. In terms of enrolled students, we're currently right now at around 90 enrolled students. We're going to be well into the low 100s when we have the April cohort. The reason that we're not publishing an average just yet is we want to accumulate. The applicant pool is growing, the cohort sizes are growing. Now, having said that, I will give you the range in terms of the 80th percentile of what we've seen to date. And that 80th percentile has been from 760 to 570. And from the other thing that I would say is getting back to a point I made earlier about not making sure that the quality for all the programs, they are high standards, whether it's full-time MBA, UNC, or executive MBA. And that range is actually very parallel with what we're seeing in both programs, particularly the full-time program.
Gotcha. Well, that's fair enough. And it's going to be very exciting for us to see how the numbers evolve over time, just in terms, not only just GMAT score, of course, but the cohort and the types of people who will come in. It's a very exciting program.
We definitely think so too, and I would just say that those of you again that would like to talk more in detail on one-on-one with me, I am happy to do so. And again, if you want to talk more around rather than specifically about MBA UNC, but just more about some things to think about in exploring programs, I'm happy to be available.
So for those of you who joined us a little bit into this session, we've been speaking with Beth Flye, who is the Director of Admissions for MBA at UNC. And Beth had just given us a really great discussion around what an online MBA degree is, some of the nuances of pursuing an online MBA degree, and also some information about MBA at UNC. Beth, thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening and talking about your program.
My pleasure, Eric, and again, thank you for having me. And again, everyone out there, I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to be of assistance anytime.
Fantastic. And for those of you out there in the audience, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We will send a follow-up email to provide you a little bit of information on how to follow up with MBA at UNC, although you can quickly write down Beth's email and phone number right now while you see it. Again, that's a really rare treat to have an MBA admissions director to provide that information so openly. So all the best to you, and we hope to see you again in a future session.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Eric.
All right. Bye-bye.